The morning sun pierced through the towering windows of the Grandview apartments like golden spears, illuminating dust particles that danced in the air. John Matthews guided his cleaning cart across the marble lobby, each squeak of the wheels marking another step in his daily routine. The floor beneath him gleamed, his handiwork from yesterday, reflecting a distorted version of himself, a man in his 30s, shoulders slightly hunched from exhaustion, eyes that had forgotten how to dream. "Morning, Mr. Matthews." Mrs. Chen's voice rang out from the mailroom, warm as always. "Morning, John," responded, managing a smile that didn't quite reach his eyes. Mrs. Chen had worked here for 15 years, yet somehow she still radiated energy. How did she do it? He paused by the grand mirror in the lobby, catching his reflection. When had those lines appeared around his eyes? When had his hands become so rough? Lisa deserved a father who didn't look so worn down by life. She deserved someone who could take her to amusement parks on weekends, not someone who spent Saturdays catching up on sleep and Sunday mornings calculating which bills could wait another week. The thought of Lisa sent a familiar ache through his chest, the bittersweet pain of loving someone so much it terrified him. Last night, she'd made him a card at Mrs. Rodriguez's apartment, a crayon drawing of the two of them holding hands under a yellow sun. "You and me forever, Daddy," she'd written in her careful 5-year-old letters, some backwards, some floating above the line. Forever. What kind of forever could he give her? John checked his watch, 7:15 a.m. Lisa would be waking up now, her curly hair a wild halo around her face. Mrs. Rodriguez would make her breakfast, walk her to kindergarten. The elderly neighbor had become their lifeline, refusing payment despite John's insistence. "You help me carry groceries," she'd said. "We help each other. That's what neighbors do. If only the world worked that way." The service elevator groaned as it carried him to the 7th floor. Through the small window, he watched the floors tick by, each one representing a different economic universe. Ground floor, lobby and shops. 2nd through 4th, young professionals. 5th through 8th, established families. 9th and 10th, the penthouses, where people lived who probably didn't know what a service elevator looked like. Apartment 7C's door swung open with a soft click. John stepped inside and stopped, as he always did, to take in the space. Floor-to-ceiling windows framed the city skyline. Modern art pieces adorned walls painted in soothing grays. A white leather sofa faced a television larger than John's bedroom wall. The kitchen gleamed with appliances he couldn't name. He thought of his own apartment, the one bedroom where Lisa slept in the actual bedroom while he took the pull-out couch. The kitchen with its temperamental stove. The bathroom where the shower only worked if you held the knob at exactly the right angle. The window that overlooked a brick wall, but it was theirs, and it was enough. It had to be. John began his routine with mechanical precision. Dust the surfaces, vacuum the pristine carpets, polish the glass coffee table. His mind drifted to Lisa's birthday, 3 weeks away. The dollhouse fund in his closet had grown to $127. The one she wanted cost $149.99, plus tax. He'd make it. He always did. While repositioning a designer chair near the window, something caught his eye. A glint of wood behind an ornamental fern. John's hand hesitated before reaching for it. Residents' belongings were sacred. He'd been trained never to move personal items unnecessarily. But this looked abandoned, forgotten, covered in a thin layer of dust that suggested the cleaning service before him had missed it too. It was a music box. Small, wooden, with intricate carvings of roses winding around its edges. The craftsmanship spoke of another era, when things were made by hand, made to last, made with love. It felt wrong in this apartment of sleek minimalism. John's fingers traced the carvings. Something stirred in his memory, just out of reach. He found the key on the PD side and turned it. The melody that emerged wasn't just sound, it was a portal. Notes cascaded through the apartment, each one a key unlocking doors in John's mind he'd kept sealed for years. His mother's voice, humming this exact tune while she folded laundry in their old house. the smell of her lavender soap, the feeling of being 6 years old and believing the world was good. John's vision blurred. When had he last cried? The music box singing its ancient song. Something cracked inside him. "Mom," he whispered. "I'm trying so hard." A thought struck him. Who owned this music box? The couple. The who lived here were in their late 20s. This music box belonged to someone with history, with memory. Someone like him. John set the music box back carefully. There was something else. A small brass plate on the bottom. "To my dearest, may this song always bring you home." A chill ran down his spine. This moment felt orchestrated, as if invisible hands had guided him here. As he locked apartment 7C, John felt eyes on him. He turned quickly. The hallway stretched empty, but shadows shifted near the far window. His phone buzzed. "Mrs. Rodriguez. Lisa asked if you could come home early today. She misses you." John's heart clenched. Early wasn't an option. But there had to be more than this endless cycle. The music box's melody haunted him, and though he didn't know it yet, that simple song had set everything in motion. The afternoon sun had shifted position by the time John reached the 3rd floor, casting long shadows through the hallway windows. His cart felt heavier with each passing hour, though nothing had changed except the growing ache in his lower back. He'd noticed it 3 months ago, a persistent pain that started as a whisper and had grown into a constant companion. Apartment 3G belonged to Mr. Harrison, a middle-aged banker who traveled constantly. John had cleaned it dozens times and could navigate it blindfolded. Yet today, as he bent to scrub the bathtub, the pain in his back flared with such intensity that he gasped, dropping his sponge. He gripped the porcelain edge, waiting for the sensation to pass. "Just stress," he muttered. "Just tired." But deep down, he knew it was more. The pain had been accompanied by other things lately. Exhaustion that sleep couldn't cure. Moments where his vision blurred inexplicably. He'd been ignoring it, because acknowledging it meant facing an impossible choice: seek medical help he couldn't afford, or keep working and hope it resolved itself. The healthcare program he qualified for had a 3-month waiting list. 3 months of uncertainty, 3 months of pain, 3 months of wondering if he'd wake up one day unable to work at all. John finished Mr. Harrison's apartment and moved to 3H, where Mrs. Thompson lived. The elderly woman had requested he come by today specifically, something about a stubborn window that wouldn't close properly. He knocked softly on her door. "Come in, dear." Her voice called from inside. The apartment smelled of chamomile tea and old books. Mrs. Thompson sat in her favorite armchair by the window, a thick novel resting in her lap. She looked up as John entered, her eyes, still sharp despite her 78 years, studying him with an intensity that made him uncomfortable. "You look tired, John," she said plainly. "More tired than usual." "I'm fine, Mrs. Thompson." "You mentioned a window?" She gestured toward the bedroom but didn't move from her chair. "Before you fix that, sit for a moment. When did you last eat?" "I had breakfast. That was 7 hours ago." She pushed herself up with surprising vigor and shuffled to the kitchen. "I made too much soup. You'll help me finish it." It wasn't a question. Mrs. Thompson had a way of issuing commands that felt like invitations, and refusing her felt impossible. John found himself sitting at her small dining table, a steaming bowl of chicken soup before him. The smell alone made his stomach growl. He'd forgotten how hungry he was. "Mrs. Thompson, I really should eat first. The window has been broken for 3 weeks. 10 more minutes won't matter." John ate, and the warmth of the soup seemed to spread through his entire body. Mrs. Thompson watched him with an expression he couldn't quite read. Concern mixed with something else. Determination, perhaps. "You know," she began, settling into the chair across from him, "my son used to work himself like you do. Never stopped, never asked for help, always thought he could handle everything alone." John had heard her mention her son before, always in past tense, always with that particular sadness in her voice. "He was a good man," she continued, "but pride can be dangerous. It makes us think that asking for support is weakness when really, it's the bravest thing we can do. John set down his spoon. Mrs. Thompson, I see you, John, really see you, the way you wince when you think no one's looking, the way your hands shake sometimes when you're tired. You're not invisible to me. The words hit him like a physical blow. Invisible. That's exactly what he'd felt for years. A ghost moving through the building, noticed only when something needed fixing or cleaning. The residents saw the results of his work, never the work itself. Never him. I'm managing, he said quietly. Are you? Because from where I sit, you're drowning, and Lisa needs, who? The mention of his daughter made John's throat tighten. Lisa is fine, I make sure she's fine. But who makes sure you're fine? The question hung in the air between them. John had no answer because there was no answer. He was alone in this. That was simply the reality of his life. Mrs. Thompson reached across the table and placed her weathered hand over his. There's a community meeting next Tuesday evening. Building residents, discussing neighborhood initiatives. You should come. I work until 3. Then I need to get Lisa. Mrs. Rodriguez mentioned she could watch Lisa for an extra an hour. She's already agreed. This meeting could help you, John, help both of you. John wanted to refuse. He wanted to finish his soup, fix the window, and retreat back into his routine where everything was predictable, even if it was hard. But something in Mrs. Thompson's eyes stopped him. A knowing look that suggested she understood more about his situation than he'd ever told her. I'll think about it, he finally said. She smiled, satisfied. Good. Now, about that window. The window was indeed stubborn, the frame swollen from moisture. As John worked on it, Mrs. Thompson talked about her day. Her book, the weather. Normal things, comfortable things. For 20 minutes, John felt less alone. As he was leaving, Mrs. Thompson caught his arm. The music box you found today, in 7C, that melody has a way of finding people who need it. John froze. How did you? I heard it through the vents. These old buildings carry sound in mysterious ways. That box belonged to someone special once. Someone who understood that we all need help sometimes. She released his arm, her expression enigmatic. John wanted to ask more, but something in her demeanor suggested the conversation was over. Walking back to the service elevator, John's mind raced. The music box, Mrs. Thompson's comments, the strange feeling of being watched. Pieces of something larger, something he couldn't quite see yet. His phone buzzed again. This time, an email notification. The subject line made his blood run cold. Healthcare application status update. John's hand trembled as he opened it. The wait time had been extended. Not 3 months anymore. 6. 6 months before he could see a doctor about the pain that was steadily getting worse. He leaned against the wall, suddenly exhausted beyond measure. The music. Box's melody echoed in his memory, his mother's voice humming along. And for just a moment, John Matthews let himself imagine a world where he wasn't carrying everything alone. Lisa Matthews sat at Mrs. Rodriguez's kitchen table, her legs swinging as she colored intensely. She'd chosen purple for the princess's dress, ignoring the pink guide. Purple was Daddy's favorite color. Very beautiful, mija, Mrs. Rodriguez said, placing apple slices beside her. Mrs. Rodriguez? Lisa looked up with thoughtful brown eyes. Why doesn't Daddy come home earlier? It was a question she asked often in different ways. Why does Daddy look so tired? Why can't Daddy play more? Mrs. Rodriguez sat beside her carefully. Your daddy works very hard to take care of you, sweetheart. That takes time. But Emma's daddy picks her up from school every day. Lisa picked up her brown crayon and drew a tall figure next to the princess. I'm drawing Daddy in the castle so he doesn't have to work so much. Mrs. Rodriguez's heart ached. She'd cared for Lisa for 2 years, watching her grow more aware of her father's struggles. When I grow up, Lisa declared seriously, I'm going to have lots of money, then Daddy won't be tired anymore, and we'll have a big house with a yard. Daddy can have his own room instead of the couch. He thinks I don't know, but I do. Your daddy wants you to have the bedroom, Lisa. That's what parents do. But it's not fair. Lisa's eyes filled with tears. She tried to blink away. At 5, she was already learning to hide sadness. Nothing is fair. Mrs. Rodriguez pulled her into a hug. Life isn't always fair, mija, but we have each other. Lisa pulled away, wiping her eyes. Mrs. Rodriguez, do you think my mommy is coming back? Maybe if she did, Daddy wouldn't be so tired. Rodriguez chose words carefully. Sometimes people can't come back, but your daddy is doing an amazing job. He's the best daddy ever, Lisa agreed fiercely. That's why I need to help him. She returned to coloring, drawing yellow flowers around her father and the princess. As she worked, she hummed. A gentle, old-fashioned tune. Mrs. Rodriguez recognized it immediately, the music box melody from earlier. Where did you learn that song, Lisa? The girl paused. I don't know. It was just in my head when I woke up. Do you know it? I do. It's very old, special. It makes me think of Daddy, Lisa said, simply continuing to hum. Mrs. Rodriguez watched her, wondering. The building had its mysteries. The music box was one, a relic from Grandview's early days, passed down, hidden, found again. Some said it brought people together. She'd always dismissed such talk, but now, watching Lisa hum that ancient melody, she wasn't sure. The afternoon passed quietly. At 3:15, footsteps sounded in the hallway. Lisa's face transformed. Daddy! She ran to the door, throwing it open and launching into his arms. Hey, princess. John lifted her, ignoring the sharp pain in his back. Did you have a good day? I made you a picture, and I got all my spelling words right. And Daddy, guess what? I learned a new song. She began singing the melody. John froze. The music box's song. How did Lisa know it? Where did you learn that? He asked carefully. Lisa shrugged. It was just there, in my dreams maybe. I like it. Sounds like home. John and Mrs. Rodriguez exchanged glances. Her expression was knowing, as if this confirmed something. It's a beautiful song, John said. Very special. Like us, Lisa declared, hugging him tighter. We're special too, right, Daddy? The most special, he whispered. As they prepared to leave, Mrs. Rodriguez pulled John aside. The community meeting Tuesday night, 7 o'clock. I'll watch Lisa. This is important, John. He wanted to refuse, but something in her eyes made him hesitate. We'll see, he said finally. Walking home, Lisa chattered while John listened, but his mind circled around mysteries, the music box, the melody in his daughter's dreams, Mrs. Thompson knowing about it, the feeling that something was shifting beneath his carefully controlled life. Above them, the sky turned purple. Lisa pointed excitedly, declaring it a sign tomorrow would be magical. John smiled and agreed, even as worry gnawed at him. Something was coming, he could feel it. Change was in the air, carried on notes of an old melody, and there was no stopping it now. Tuesday evening arrived with unexpected rain, droplets drumming against the Grandview's windows. John stood outside the Sierra community room on the second floor, his hand hovering near the doorknob. Through the frosted glass, he saw silhouettes gathering, heard conversation murmurs. He almost turned back. Social gatherings weren't his world. He was the janitor, the invisible man. Why had he come? Because Mrs. Rodriguez had insisted. Because Mrs. Thompson had looked at him with knowing eyes. Because something in him was tired of being invisible. John pushed open the door. The room fell briefly silent as heads turned. 20 residents sat in folding chairs, young professionals, families, elderly tenants. Mrs. Chen waved enthusiastically. Mrs. Thompson smiled and gestured to an empty chair beside her. John, so glad you came, a woman in her 40s said, standing. I'm Sandra Martinez, building manager. We're just starting. John took the seat, acutely aware of his worn jeans among the business casual attire. Tonight's focus, Sandra began, is building community connections and supporting neighbors in need. We've noticed many residents struggling with isolation, especially elderly tenants and single parents. John shifted uncomfortably. Was this about him? Mrs. Thompson suggested starting a neighbor support network, Sandra continued. Pairing families who need help with those who can offer it. Childcare exchanges, meal sharing, skill trading. It takes a village, Mrs. Thompson interjected. We have the village right here. We just need to act like one. A young woman raised her hand. I'd love help with my twins after school. I'm a nurse, odd hours. I could offer medical advice in exchange. I can tutor kids, offered a college student. Math and science. Maybe someone could help me with laundry? Laughter rippled through the group. John felt something loosening in his chest. These people had needs too. What about you, John? Mrs. Chen asked gently. What could you use help with? Every eye turned to him. John's throat tightened. Asking for help felt like admitting failure. Mrs. Thompson's hand found his, squeezing gently. It's okay. This is safe. I work until 3, John began, voice cracking. My neighbor watches my daughter, but I worry I'm asking too much. Sometimes I need to work later for extra money, but I can't leave Lisa alone. The words tumbled faster. I'm good at fixing things. Plumbing, electrical, carpentry. I could help people. But I could use help. Sometimes, with Lisa. And I've been having health issues, nothing serious. But I can't afford to miss work for doctor appointments, Sandra wrote quickly. The nurse could help with preliminary assessments. And we have retired folks who'd love spending time with children. This is exactly what we're building. There's more, Mrs. Thompson said, her voice carrying authority. John found something in apartment 7C, a music box. Some of you might remember it. Several older residents exchanged glances. A man in his 70s nodded slowly. The Hartwell music box. I thought it was lost. The Hartwells were the building's first superintendents, Mrs. Thompson explained. Back in 1952, Margaret Hartwell believed that music box found people who needed community. When she passed, it disappeared. Until now. That's just superstition, a younger man scoffed. Is it? Mrs. Thompson's eyes gleamed. John found it Thursday. By Friday, his daughter was humming its melody despite never hearing it. By Monday, 3 residents mentioned hearing the song and feeling compelled to reach out to neighbors. And now we're all here. The room fell silent. John felt that chill again, invisible hands. Arranging pieces. Whether it's magic or coincidence, Sandra said practically. We're here now, let's make this count. The meeting continued, residents signing up to help each other, exchanging numbers, making plans. John agreed to fix Mr. Patterson's faucet in exchange for Lisa joining his granddaughter's playgroup. The nurse offered to examine his back. Mrs. Chen volunteered to watch Lisa every other Friday. As people filed out, Mrs. Thompson held John back. The music box. Margaret Hartwell left instructions. Whoever finds it becomes its keeper. She believed it chose people who understood loneliness and could help others overcome it. I'm barely keeping my own life together, John protested. That's exactly why you're perfect. You understand struggle. You understand needing help but being afraid to ask. She smiled. The box found you for a reason. Walking home through rain, John felt different, lighter. He'd spent years building walls, convinced self-reliance was strength. Tonight he'd glimpsed something else, strength found in connection, in community, in admitting you can't do everything alone. His phone buzzed. A group text from Sandra. Grandview Community. Support Network. Welcome. Below it, messages appeared. Mrs. Chen offering Tai Chi classes. The college student asking for jumper cables. The nurse sharing her consultation schedule. John smiled. Above him, rain was letting up. Through breaking clouds, stars appeared. For the first time in years, John Matthews felt like he could see them clearly. Tomorrow, he'd return to apartment 7C. He needed to understand what Mrs. Thompson meant about being its keeper. But tonight, he'd tell Lisa about the new friends they'd made, the community they'd found. They weren't alone anymore. Wednesday morning brought sunshine, as if rain had washed the world clean. John arrived at the Grandview earlier than usual, his mind processing Tuesday's revelations. The music box. its keeper. The idea seemed absurd in daylight, yet he couldn't shake Mrs. Thompson's words. The 7th floor was quiet as he approached 7C. He'd gotten permission from Sandra to enter outside his normal schedule, claiming he'd left a tool behind. The lie tasted bitter, but how could he explain the truth? The apartment was exactly as he'd left it. John went straight to the window, moving the fern aside. The music box sat there waiting, he'd know why. Picked it up carefully, turning it in his hands. In daylight, he noticed details he'd missed before. Tiny initials carved into the bottom corner. M.H. Margaret Hartwell. The brass plate read, "To my dearest, may this song always bring you home." John wound the key. The melody filled the apartment and, this time, he didn't fight the memories. His mother singing while cooking, her laugh, the feeling of safety he'd taken for granted as a child. Before she got sick, before he learned that love wasn't always enough. "What do you want from me?" he whispered to the box. As if in answer, his phone rang. Unknown number. "Hello? Mr. Matthews? This is Dr. Patterson from Community Health Services. We had a cancellation for tomorrow at 9. I understand you've been waiting for an appointment regarding back pain?" John's heart raced. "Yes, but I'm on a 6-month waiting list. Someone advocated for you. Marked your case as priority. Can you make it?" I work. We'll provide documentation for your employer." "This is important, Mr. Matthews." John ended the call in shock. Someone had advocated for him. Mrs. Thompson? Sandra? The nurse from last night? His phone buzzed again. A text from Mrs. Chen. "Heard you have doctor appointment tomorrow. I'll cover your morning shift, no arguments." Then another from Sandra. "Mr. Patterson will watch Lisa during your appointment. His granddaughter is excited to meet her." John stared at his phone, eyes burning. This was what community meant. Not just offering help, but actively providing it. Anticipating needs before they were voiced. The music box continued its melody. John realized he was crying, not from sadness, but from the overwhelming relief of not being alone. For years he'd carried everything himself, convinced that was strength. But maybe true strength was letting others help carry the burden. He carefully placed the music box in his cleaning cart, wrapping it in a soft cloth. If he was its keeper, he needed to understand it better. More importantly, he needed to share it with others who might need its message. The rest of his shift passed in a blur. He cleaned mechanically, his mind elsewhere. At lunch, he sat in the employee break room and researched Margaret Hartwell online. He found an old newspaper article from 1975, her obituary. Margaret Hartwell, beloved building superintendent, believed in the power of community. Her music box, a gift from her late husband, was said to bring neighbors together. She leaves behind a legacy of kindness and connection. There was a photo, a woman in her 70s, holding the same music box, surrounded by dozens of smiling residents. The caption read, "Mrs. Hartwell, with Grandview family, 1974. Family. That's what she'd built. Not just neighbors, but family. At 3 o'clock, John picked up Lisa from Mrs. Rodriguez's apartment. His daughter was buzzing with excitement. "Daddy," Mrs. Rodriguez said, "I'm going to play with a new friend tomorrow. Her name is Sophie. And she's 5 like me, and she has a dollhouse." John knelt to her level. "I have a doctor appointment tomorrow morning. Mr. Patterson is going to watch you." Lisa's face grew concerned. "Are you sick, Daddy?" "Just a checkup, Princess, to make sure I stay healthy for you." "Promise?" "Promise." He pulled her into a hug. "Hey, I want to show you something special when we get home." Back in their small apartment, John unwrapped the music box and set it on their kitchen table. Lisa's eyes widened. "That's the song. From my dreams." "I know, baby. This box is very old, very special. It belonged to a lady who believed music could bring people together. I'm supposed to take care of it now." "Like a treasure?" Lisa breathed, reaching out tentatively. "Exactly, like a treasure." Lisa wound the key carefully, and the melody filled their tiny home, making it feel bigger somehow. Warmer. She began to hum. Along, swaying gently. "It sounds like hugs," she said simply. John smiled through tears. Yes, it does. That night, after Lisa was asleep, John sat on his pull-out couch, the music box beside him. He wound it again, letting the melody wash over him. Tomorrow, he'd see a doctor. Tomorrow, Lisa would make a new friend. Tomorrow, he'd begin understanding what it meant to be part of a community. The music box was teaching him something profound, that invisible people could become visible, that asking for help wasn't weakness, that loneliness could be overcome not through isolation, but through connection. Margaret Hartwell had understood this. Now John was beginning to understand it too. He picked up his phone and typed a message to the community group. Thank you for everything. I don't know how to repay you. The responses came quickly. You already are. We take care of each other. That's what family does. Family. John repeated the word silently, testing it, believing it. The music box's melody faded, but its message remained. And for the first time in years, John Matthews went to sleep feeling hopeful about tomorrow. Dr. Patterson's office was nothing like John expected. Instead of sterile white walls and uncomfortable chairs, the small clinic felt warm. Plants in the windows, children's drawings on the walls, soft music playing. The doctor himself was the elderly man from the community meeting, the one who'd recognized the music box. John, come in, doctor. Patterson smiled, gesturing to the examination room. Thank you for coming. Thank you for seeing me, John replied, still overwhelmed by how quickly everything had happened. The examination was thorough but gentle. Dr. Patterson asked questions about the pain's duration, intensity. What made it worse? He pressed carefully along John's spine, watching for reactions. You've been pushing through significant discomfort, the doctor observed. The good news is it's muscular strain, not structural damage. But if you'd waited much longer, he trailed off meaningfully. You need physical therapy, rest, and proper support when lifting. I'm writing recommendations for your employer. I can't afford physical therapy, John said quietly. Dr. Patterson smiled. The clinic offers sliding scale services, and I happen to know a retired physical therapist in our building who's volunteered to help neighbors, Mrs. Thompson. Mrs. Thompson is a physical therapist. Was for 40 years. She's been waiting for someone to help. The doctor's eyes twinkled. Funny how things work out. John left with prescriptions for anti-inflammatory medication, exercises to practice, and an appointment with Mrs. Thompson for the following week. As he walked through the clinic lobby, he saw families waiting, some looking as worried as he'd felt. A young mother bounced a crying baby. An elderly man sat alone, shoulders slumped. John paused. Then, acting on impulse, he approached the mother. Excuse me, I don't mean to intrude, but there's a community support group at the Grandview Apartments. We help each other with childcare, medical advice, all sorts of things. You look like you could use some support. The woman's eyes filled with tears. I'm so tired. I don't know anyone in this city. John pulled out his phone, showing her the community group information. You're not alone anymore. He did the same with the elderly man, who admitted he'd been feeling isolated since his wife passed. By the time John left, he'd connected 3 people to the community network. Outside, Mr. Patterson waited with Lisa and Sophie. The girls were already best friends, giggling together over a shared picture book. Daddy, Lisa ran to him. Sophie has the dollhouse, the exact one. And she said I can come play with it whenever I want. That's wonderful, Princess. John looked at Mr. Patterson. Thank you for watching her. Are you kidding? These 2 entertained themselves. I just provided snacks. The old man smiled. How'd it go with my son? Your son? Dr. Patterson. He took over my practice when I retired. Good doctor, like his old man. Mr. Patterson winked. The Grandview takes care of its own. Walking home, Lisa chattered about Sophie and the dollhouse and how Mr. Patterson had taught them to play chess. John listened, marveling at how much had changed in just a week. 7 days ago, he'd been drowning in isolation. Now he had doctors, therapists, friends and support. The music box had done this, or rather, it had started the process. The rest was people choosing connection over isolation. That evening, John brought the music box to Mrs. Thompson's apartment for his first physical therapy session. She had converted her dining room into a small therapy space complete with exercise equipment and instructional charts. "The box," she said, seeing it in his hands. "You understand now?" "I think so. It doesn't create magic. It creates opportunity. It reminds people to reach out, to connect." "Exactly." Mrs. Thompson took the box gently, winding it. The melody filled her apartment. Margaret believed that loneliness was the great illness of modern life. This box was her prescription, a reminder that we need each other. As she guided John through exercises, she told him about Margaret Hartwell, how she'd come to America as a young woman, alone and frightened, how she'd built community in this building, one connection at a time, how her husband had given her the music box on their wedding day, inscribed with that message, "May this song always bring you home." "Home isn't a place," Mrs. Thompson explained. "It's people. Connection. Belonging. That's what the music box teaches." John worked through the exercises, feeling his muscles protest, then gradually ease. Mrs. Thompson was patient, encouraging, skilled. She shared her own story, how she'd isolated herself after her son moved away, how she'd been drowning in loneliness until she'd heard the music box's melody through the vents. "It reminded me that I wasn't dead yet," she laughed, "that I still had purpose. I could still help people. I just needed to stop hiding." After the session, John sat at her small kitchen table drinking tea. "What do I do with it? The music box? Share it. Bring it to people who need reminding that they're not alone. Let it work its magic or coincidence or whatever you want to call it." John nodded slowly. He thought of the people he'd met at the clinic, their lonely faces. The residents in the building he barely knew. Lisa's kindergarten teacher, who'd mentioned feeling overwhelmed. The grocery store clerk who always looked sad. "I can do that," he said. Mrs. Thompson smiled. "I know you can. That's why it found you." Walking home with Lisa that night, John carried the music box carefully. Lisa skipped beside him, humming its melody. "Daddy, are you happy?" The question surprised him. "Yes, Princess, I am, are you? I'm always happy when I'm with you, but now you smile more. That makes me extra happy." John stopped walking, kneeling to her level. "A lot of good things are happening. We're making friends, getting help, helping others. It feels good, doesn't it?" "It feels like we belong," Lisa said seriously, "like we're part of something big." "We are, baby. We really are." That night, John placed the music box on their kitchen counter, where both he and Lisa could see it. Its presence seemed to fill their small apartment with warmth, with possibility. His phone buzzed. A message from Sandra. "Community dinner this Saturday at the Grandview. Everyone's bringing a dish. Can you come?" John smiled and typed back, "We'll be there." Then another message from Mrs. Chen. "Tai Chi class. Starting next week. Great for your back. Join us?" And another from the nurse. "Your test results look good. Just strain, like Dr. Patterson said. Keep up the therapy." Connection after connection, weaving a safety net John hadn't known he needed. The music box sat silently on the counter, its work done for now, waiting for the next person who needed reminding that they weren't alone in this world. John wound it one last time before bed, letting its melody be the last thing he heard. Tomorrow, he'd start sharing it with others. Tomorrow, he'd help build the community that had saved him. But tonight, he simply sat with Lisa, listening to the music that sounded like home, feeling grateful for the invisible hands that had guided him here, and the visible hands that would help him stay. Saturday arrived with golden sunshine, the kind of day that made everything feel possible. John and Lisa spent the morning preparing for the community dinner, a simple pasta salad, the only dish John knew how to make well. Lisa helped, carefully tearing lettuce and counting cherry tomatoes. 15, 16, 17. "Daddy, can I bring the music box to show Sophie?" John considered. The box had become their treasure, but Mrs. Thompson's words echoed. "Share it." "Yes, but we have to be very careful with it. It's special. I'll protect it with my life," Lisa declared dramatically, making John laugh. They arrived at the Grandview's community room at 5 o'clock to find it transformed. Long tables covered with colorful cloths filled the space. Residents moved about, setting up dishes, arranging flowers, hanging decorations. The atmosphere buzzed with energy, with belonging. "John! Lisa!" Mrs. Chen waved them over. "Put your dish here. Lisa, Sophie's been asking for you." The two girls reunited like long-lost friends, despite having seen each other just 2 days ago. Lisa carefully showed Sophie the music box, and soon a small crowd of children gathered around it, mesmerized by its melody. John found himself surrounded by adults, all offering greetings, asking about his back, sharing their own stories. The young mother from the clinic was there, looking less exhausted. The elderly man had brought his famous meatballs. Everyone belonged. Sandra called for attention. "Before we eat, I want to acknowledge what's happened here. 2 weeks ago, we were strangers living in the same building. Today, we're a community. We've shared childcare, meals, skills, and most importantly, ourselves. This started because one person found an old music box and reminded us what we'd forgotten, that we need each other." All eyes turned to John. He felt his face flush. "John Matthews has, become the heart of this community," Sandra continued. "Not because he asked for it, but because he needed help and was brave enough to accept it. In doing so, he showed us all how to be vulnerable, how to connect. Let's hear it for John." Applause filled the room. John wanted to hide, but Lisa was beaming at him with such pride that he stood tall instead, accepting the recognition he'd spent years avoiding. "I didn't do anything special," he managed to say. "I just stopped pretending I could do everything alone." "That," Mrs. Thompson said from her seat, "is the bravest thing anyone can do." The dinner was chaotic and wonderful. Food covered every surface. Dishes from different cultures, family recipes, experimental attempts. Children ran between tables while adults talked and laughed. John found himself in conversation after conversation, sharing his story, hearing others. He learned that Mr. Patterson had lost his wife 5 years ago and had been lonely despite his son living nearby. That Mrs. Chen had immigrated from Taiwan alone at 60 and had struggled to make friends. That Sandra was a single mother too, raising teenage twins while managing the building. Everyone had struggles. Everyone had felt alone. The music box had simply reminded them they didn't have to be. As the evening wore on, someone suggested dancing. Music played, modern songs mixed with oldies, and the community room transformed into an impromptu dance floor. John, who hadn't danced in years, found himself swaying with Lisa to a slow song, her small feet standing on his. "This is the best day ever," she whispered. "It really is, Princess." Watching the crowd, John saw the young mother laughing with Mrs. Chen, the elderly man teaching Sophie and Lisa a silly dance, Mr. Patterson and Mrs. Thompson talking intensely about something, gesturing animatedly. Connections forming, strengthening, spreading. Later, as things wound down, Dr. Patterson approached John. "I have something for you." He handed over an envelope. "We took a collection for Lisa's birthday." John opened it to find $312 in cash. His throat closed. "I can't accept this." "Yes, you can. Lisa mentioned wanting a dollhouse. This will cover it and then some. Please, John, let us do this." John's vision blurred. Thank you so much. You gave us community. We're giving you a birthday present, fair trade." As they prepared to leave, John packed up the music box, but Mrs. Thompson stopped him. "Leave it here tonight. Some people need it more than we do right now." John understood. The music box wasn't his to keep. It was meant to be shared, passed around, offering its message to whoever needed it most. Walking home, Lisa was so tired she could barely keep her eyes open. John carried her the last 2 blocks, her head on his shoulder. Daddy, she murmured sleepily, I love our new family. Our new family. Everyone. At the building, they're like family now. John smiled in the darkness. Yes, baby, they are. That night, putting Lisa to bed, John reflected on how much had changed. 2 weeks ago, he'd been invisible, drowning, alone. Now he was seen, supported, connected. The music box had started it, but the community had sustained it. His phone buzzed with messages from the group chat, photos from the dinner, thank yous, plans for next Saturday's potluck, an invitation to join the building's garden committee, a request for help fixing someone's sink, connection after connection, like threads weaving a tapestry, each person a different color, a different texture, but all essential to the whole. John replied. To each message then added his own, thank you for giving me and Lisa a home, not just a place to live, but a real home. The responses came quickly, variations of, you're welcome and we're family now, and this is just the beginning. Just the beginning. John liked the sound of that. As he settled onto his pull-out couch, John thought about the music box sitting in the community room. Its melody silent, but its message eternal. We need each other. We're stronger together. No one should be alone. Margaret Hartwell had known this truth and had created something to remind people of it. Now John was part of that legacy, helping others find the connection he'd found. Tomorrow was Sunday. He'd spend it with Lisa at the building's garden, helping plant vegetables with other families. Monday, he'd return to work, but it would feel different now. He wasn't just the janitor, he was John, a valued member of a community, a friend, a helper, and someone who allowed himself to be helped. The pain in his back had lessened with therapy. The pain in his heart had lessened with community. Healing came in many forms, but all required one thing: connection. John closed his eyes, thinking of the melody, of Lisa's smile, of the future that suddenly seemed brighter, fuller, more possible. The music box had brought him home. Now he'd spend his life helping others find their way home too. 3 weeks after the first community dinner, the grand view had transformed. The lobby featured a bulletin board, covered with offers, free tutoring, cat sitting available, join Sunday gardening. The building felt alive. John's life had settled into a new rhythm. Work no longer felt solitary. Residents greeted him by name, asked about Lisa. His back pain had improved with Mrs. Thompson's therapy. Lisa was, thriving, surrounded by friends. But John noticed something troubling. Not everyone had embraced the change. Apartment 9A belonged to Marcus Chen, Mrs. Chen's nephew. John had seen him occasionally, a man in his late 20s, always in business attire, always hurrying, always alone. He'd never attended community events. One Tuesday morning, cleaning the 9th floor, John noticed Marcus's door ajar. Concerned, he knocked. Mr. Chen? Everything okay? No response. John pushed the door open carefully. Hello? Building maintenance. The apartment was immaculate but cold. Expensive furniture, no personal touches. Then John heard it. Quiet sobbing from the bedroom. He should leave. But the sound was so broken, so alone. He couldn't walk away. Mr. Chen, John called softly. Are you hurt? The sobbing stopped. Footsteps approached, and Marcus appeared, red-eyed, disheveled, his facade cracked. I'm fine, please leave. You don't sound fine. It's none of your concern. Marcus's voice was harsh, defensive. John recognized that tone. He'd used it himself not long ago. He saw himself in this young man's eyes, the fear, the isolation, the desperate pretense. I know we don't know each other, John said gently, but I've been where you are. Whatever you're dealing with, you don't have to face it alone. You don't know anything about me. I know you're Mrs. Chen's nephew. I know you work long hours. I know you never join community events. And I know that crying alone in an expensive apartment is the loneliest feeling in the world. Marcus's walls crumbled. I lost my job 3 weeks ago. I've been pretending to go to work, spending days at coffee shops, My savings are almost gone, and I can't tell my aunt because she sacrificed everything to help me through. College. John stepped inside. Can I sit? They talked. Marcus had been a financial analyst, working 80-hour weeks, earning well but miserable. When he'd questioned certain practices, he'd been quietly let go. I built my whole identity around that job, Marcus said. Without it, I don't know who I am. I have maybe 6 weeks before I can't pay rent. John thought about the music box currently in Mrs. Thompson's apartment, about Margaret Hartwell's message, about community. There's a group in this building, John began. People who help each other. We share skills, resources, support. Your aunt is part of it. My aunt? She never mentioned it because she respects your privacy. But Marcus, you're part of this community whether you've participated or not. We take care of our own. I don't need charity. It's not charity, it's community. You have skills, financial knowledge, business experience. People here could use that. In exchange, we help you get back on your feet. Marcus was silent. I don't know. Come to dinner Saturday. Just come. See what it's about. If you hate it, never come back. But I think you'll find what I found, that being vulnerable isn't weakness. It's the beginning of real strength. John showed Marcus the community group chat. People helping people. A month ago I was where you are, terrified, alone. Now I have support, friends, purpose. You can have that too. Marcus read through messages, his expression shifting from skepticism to hope. What if they judge me? They won't. Everyone here has struggled, that's the point, we understand. Before leaving, John took Marcus's hand. Feel that heartbeat? I'm terrified right now. Terrified I'm saying the wrong thing. But I'm doing it anyway because someone did it for me. Now I'm reaching out to you. Please take my hand. Marcus's eyes filled with tears, not despair, but relief. Okay, he whispered. I'll come Saturday. That evening, John brought the music box to Marcus's apartment. The young man opened the door, still fragile but less desperate. What's this? Something that helped me. Wind it. Up. Marcus turned the key. The melody filled his apartment and his face transformed. Surprise, recognition, peace. My grandmother used to hum this, Marcus said softly, before she passed. The box finds people who need reminding, John explained, that they're not alone, that they're loved, that there's hope. Keep it for a while. And Marcus, text your aunt tonight, tell her the truth, she loves you. That night, Mrs. Chen messaged, thank you for helping my nephew. He called me. We talked for 2 hours. Thank you for seeing him when he felt invisible. John replied, someone taught me to see. Now I'm teaching others. That's how it works. Saturday's dinner was special. Marcus attended, nervous but present. When Sandra asked for updates, Marcus stood. I'm Marcus. I've been going through something difficult. I lost my job and was too ashamed to ask for help. But John reminded me that asking for help isn't shameful. It's human. So I'm asking now. The response was immediate. Mr. Patterson knew someone hiring. Sandra offered reduced rent. The nurse offered counseling. Mrs. Chen hugged her nephew tightly. Lisa tugged John's sleeve. Daddy, you helped him like people helped us. Yes. Princess. That's what we do now. We help. Watching Marcus integrate into the community, John realized something profound. Everyone had something to offer: time, skills, presence, understanding. The music box didn't create magic. It revealed what was already there: the human capacity for connection. Evening ended. John noticed someone watching from the doorway, a woman in her 50s wearing a cleaning uniform. Another janitor. She looked lonely, curious, hopeful. John approached her. Hi, I'm John. Would you like to join us? She hesitated. I was just passing by. I heard music. Come in. There's plenty of food. We'd love to have you. The circle grew wider. One more person finding community. One more person learning they weren't alone. The music box's melody played on, its message eternal. We need each other. We save each other. We are each other's home. October brought cooler weather and darker evenings. John's life had found sustainable rhythm: work, therapy, community events, time with Lisa. The fear that had dogged him for years had quieted to a whisper. He was healing. They were healing. Everything was getting better. Then the storm came. It started with a headache on a Wednesday morning. John dismissed it, taking aspirin and continuing his work. By afternoon, the headache had intensified, accompanied by dizziness and nausea. He pushed through, telling himself it was just stress. Thursday, the pain was worse. His vision blurred occasionally. Mrs. Thompson noticed. During their therapy session, "John, you don't look well." "I'm fine, just tired." "Don't lie to me. When did this start?" He admitted the truth. She insisted he see Dr. Patterson immediately, but John refused. "I can't miss work. I can't afford—" "Your health isn't negotiable." Her tone left no room for argument. "I'm calling my son right now." Friday morning, Dr. Patterson examined John thoroughly. His expression grew concerned. "Your blood pressure is dangerously high. Combined with your other symptoms, I'm worried about your kidneys. We need tests immediately." "I can't. Lisa's birthday is next week." "John, listen to me. If this is what I think it is, you could collapse. You could end up in the emergency room, which will cost 10 times more than preventive care. Let us help you." The tests revealed chronic kidney disease, likely from years of untreated high blood pressure and pushing his body too hard. Not life-threatening yet, but serious. John would need medication, dietary changes, regular monitoring, and most critically, rest. "How long have you been ignoring symptoms?" Dr. Patterson asked gently. John couldn't answer. "Years, probably." He'd dismissed fatigue, occasional dizziness. The persistent back pain as normal consequences of hard work. He'd been slowly destroying himself. "I can't rest," John said finally. "I have to work. I have to provide for Lisa. If you don't rest now, you won't be able to work at all later. John, you're at a crossroads." That evening, John sat in his apartment, staring at the medication bottles, the dietary guidelines, the reality of his situation. Fear consumed him. What if he couldn't work? What if he lost his job? What if he couldn't care for Lisa? His phone rang. Sandra. Word had spread through the community. Mrs. Thompson had told Mrs. Chen, who'd told Sandra, who'd activated the support network. "John, we're having an emergency community meeting tonight. 7 o'clock. Mrs. Rodriguez will watch Lisa. Be there." "Sandra, I don't need—" "Yes, you do. 7 o'clock. Don't make me come get you." The community room was packed. Not just the regular attendees, but people John barely knew, residents from other floors. The woman from the neighboring building, Marcus and his aunt, everyone. Sandra stood at the front. "We're here because one of our own needs help. John has been diagnosed with a serious condition. He needs rest, but he's terrified of losing his job, his income, his ability to care for Lisa. So we're going to solve this problem together." What followed was the most humbling hour of John's life. Mr. Patterson offered to cover John's rent for 3 months. "I've got more money than I need and no one to spend it on. Let me do this." Mrs. Chen announced she'd organized a meal rotation. "No one cooks for a month. We bring dinner every night." Marcus, who'd found a new job thanks to Mr. Patterson's connection, pledged financial support. "You saved me. Now I'm saving you." The building's residents voted unanimously to hire a temporary replacement for John's duties and guarantee his position when he returned. Sandra revealed that the building's owner, moved by the community's transformation, had agreed to keep John on salary during medical leave. "But why?" John asked, overwhelmed. "Why would he do that?" "Because you changed this building," Sandra said simply. "You brought us together, you made us a community that has value. Real value. Residents are happier, turnover is down. The building has a waiting list now. You did that, John. This is just good business, plus the right thing to do," the nurse outlined. A care plan. Mrs. Thompson would supervise his recovery. Dr. Patterson would provide treatment at minimal cost. The community would ensure he rested, healed, and came back stronger. John couldn't speak. Tears streamed down his face as person after person pledged support. These people, many of whom he'd barely known 6 weeks ago, were restructuring their lives to save his. "I don't deserve this," he finally managed. "Yes, you do," Mrs. Thompson said firmly. "You taught us how to be a community. Now we're being a community for you. That's how this works." Lisa was brought in, and John held her tightly. "Daddy, are you sick?" "A little, princess, but I'm going to get better. Because of our family?" "Yes, because of our family." That night, John lay on his pull-out couch, processing everything. He'd spent his whole life believing he had to carry everything alone, that asking for help was weakness, that his worth was measured by his ability to endure suffering. He'd been so wrong. The music box sat on his kitchen counter, silent but present. John understood now what Margaret Hartwell had really created. Not a magical object, but a reminder. A reminder that humans weren't meant to struggle alone. That community was our greatest strength. That vulnerability was the gateway to connection. His phone buzzed constantly, messages of support, offers of help, expressions of love. The community he'd helped build was now building him up. John picked up the music box and wound it. The E.C. melody filled his small apartment, and for the first time he really heard its message. Not just with his ears, but with his heart. You're not alone. You're loved. You're home. Tomorrow he'd begin his recovery. He'd rest, heal, let others carry him for a while. And when he was strong again, he'd return to his work, his community, his purpose. But tonight he simply sat with Lisa, listening to the music box's ancient song, feeling grateful for the storm that had revealed just how strong his shelter really was. The community had saved him, and in doing so, they'd proven what he'd helped them discover, that together they could weather any storm. 6 months later, on a warm April morning, John stood in the Grandview's lobby, watching sunlight stream through the windows. He'd returned to work 2 months ago, healthier than he'd been in years. His kidney function had stabilized with medication and lifestyle changes. More importantly, he'd learned to accept help, to rest when needed, to trust his community. The building had continued to transform. The support network had grown to include 3 neighboring buildings. Weekly dinners were now neighborhood institutions, a community. Garden flourished on the rooftop. Children played together every afternoon. Isolated residents had become friends, family, lifelines for each other. Marcus had become John's closest friend, helping him understand finances, plan for Lisa's future. Mrs. Thompson had officially adopted them both, insisting they call her Grandma Rose. Lisa had a dozen aunts and uncles now, thriving in ways John had never imagined possible. Today was special. The building owner, Mr. Harrison, had called a meeting. John arrived to find the community room packed. Mr. Harrison stood at the front, an older gentleman John had seen only in photographs. "Thank you all for coming. I bought this building 20 years ago as an investment. I never paid much attention to who lived here, just collected rent and maintained property values. But something remarkable has happened. This building has become a community, a real community, and that's valuable beyond measure." He gestured to John. John Matthews found an old music box and reminded everyone what it meant to be neighbors. What started as one man accepting help has become a movement. Other buildings are asking how we did this. Social workers are studying our model. "You've created something special." Mr. Harrison pulled out a document. "So I'm making changes. I'm establishing the Grandview Community Foundation, funded by a portion of rental income. It will support residents in crisis, fund community programs, and ensure that what you've built here continues. Additionally, I'm creating a new position, community coordinator, to help maintain and expand these connections, and I'd like to offer that position to John Matthews." The room erupted in applause. John stood, stunned. "The salary is modest," Mr. Harrison continued, "but includes Family health insurance, housing, and a future. You've already been doing this work, John. Now you'll be paid for it. What do you say? John looked around the room, at faces that had become family, at the community he'd helped build, at Lisa beaming with pride. He thought about the music box, about Margaret Hartwell's vision, about invisible people becoming visible. I say yes, John said, voice thick with emotion. And thank you, all of you. That evening, John hosted a celebration in his apartment, the same small space that had once felt like a prison, now transformed by love into a home. People crowded in, spilling into the hallway, sharing food and laughter. Mrs. Thompson presented John with a gift, the music box, now in a beautiful glass case. Margaret would want you to have this officially. You're its keeper, John. You understand its message and live it every day. John accepted. Reverently, placing it on his kitchen counter where it had always belonged. I'll keep sharing it. That's what it's for. That's what you're for, she corrected gently. The box was just the beginning. You're the real magic, John. You and everyone here. Later, after guests had left, John sat with Lisa on their pull-out couch. Tomorrow they'd move to a larger apartment in the building, part of his new position's benefits. 2 bedrooms, so Lisa could have her own room and John could have his. Daddy, tell me the story again, Lisa requested. About the music box and how we found our family. John smiled and began the tale he'd told 100 times. How he'd found the box, how it had reminded him to ask for help, how one connection had led to another until isolation became community. And what's the lesson? He asked when he finished. That we need each other, Lisa recited. That being brave means asking for help. That family isn't just blood. It's people who choose to love you. Exactly right, Princess. John wound the music box one more time. Its melody filled the apartment, carrying with it memories of his mother, of struggles overcome, of community built, of home found. Tomorrow he'd start his new job officially. He'd help new residents connect, identify those struggling in silence, facilitate the support networks that had saved his life. He'd carry forward Margaret Hartwell's legacy, ensuring that no one in the Grandview or beyond had to face their battles alone. But tonight he simply held Lisa close, listening to the music that had changed everything, feeling grateful for the journey from invisible to essential, from isolated to connected, from surviving to truly living. The music box's message echoed in his heart. You're not alone. You're loved. You're home. And finally, after years of searching, John Matthews truly was home. Not in a place, but in a community. Not in possessions, but in connections. Not in isolation, but in the beautiful, messy, life-saving embrace of people who'd chosen to see him, to help him, to love him. The music box sat on his counter, its work complete for now. But John knew that tomorrow, or next week, or next month, someone else would need its reminder. Someone else would be struggling in silence, convinced they had to carry everything alone. And when that person appeared, John would be ready. He'd share the box, share his story, share the truth he'd learned. That humanity's greatest strength wasn't individual achievement, but collective care. That asking for help wasn't weakness, but wisdom. That community wasn't something you found. It was something you built, one connection at a time. Lisa fell asleep, against his shoulder, humming the melody softly. John closed his eyes, feeling the weight of her trust, the warmth of belonging, the peace of finally being home. Outside, the city continued its restless motion. But here, in this small apartment in the Grandview, surrounded by the invisible web of connections that had saved his life, John Matthews was exactly where he belonged. The music box's song faded into silence, its message delivered, its purpose fulfilled. And in that silence, John heard something even more beautiful. The sound of community, of family, of home. It sounded like laughter. It sounded from the hallway, like footsteps of neighbors who'd become friends, like the gentle breathing of his sleeping daughter, like hope, like healing, like love. It sounded like everything he'd ever needed, and it was only the beginning.